bring the matches, you bring the gasoline. Let's do it right, oh let's make a scene. There's no survivors, no survivors on this road we're on. Lead me astray, you little pussycat. Let's take this day and make it a disaster. Oh, I know what you're after. Happily ever after ain't a joke to you. Still the hand, won the night. Yes, Lord, will you please spare this life? He said no. There's no survivors on this road wrong. You bring the gasoline. Let's do it right, oh let's make a scene. There's no survivors, no survivors on this road wrong. No survivors, no survivors on this road we're on.
Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
All right, that's much better. Sorry. Oh my, oh my. There's so much going on, it's hard for me to keep up with all of it. It's just been incredible. I literally just finished, there's research that I was doing as this is all going on, trying to make sure that I know exactly what's happening here today. This morning has been busy. A lot of breaking news today. I mean, this is an episode of nothing but breaking news. And you know what that means?
Newsflash. Newsflash.
Maybe a little loud. Okay, so there's a lot of breaking news today going on, all kinds of issues and stories going out in the news today, and not all of it being covered by the news media at this moment, at the very least, or actually probably intended to be covered. It's just the nature of the news media. So we're going to start off with probably the least significant news, which is probably getting the most attention at this time. And that is in reference to Jussie Smollett. Okay, for those who don't recall Jussie Smollett, he is he's the actor from the program. I don't know what that is. Empire. That's it. Empire. That program, which is on TV, Fox carries it, and it's him just talking about I don't even know what that show's about. I don't watch TV. But Jussie Smollett has been found, well, to clarify, he's not innocent. He is not innocent. But the charges, all 16 charges against him have been dropped. This is according to the Chicago Sun-Times, and a lot of people were following it. It just came out. That was about 11:43, 2 hours ago. Roughly, that news started breaking on this. And here's the part of the story that a lot of people are not covering at this time. And this is important, all right? Because a lot of people are not covering this. It should be covered. It is important to be covered that Jussie Smollett had the charges dropped not because he was innocent. He was not found innocent. The charges were expunged, which is a very big thing. And for those who don't know the legal terminology, expunged means that it's as if the charges never existed. You won't be able to look them up. It won't be held in court records. It doesn't exist anymore. It's as if it never happened. So it's not the charges were dropped and this would still be on record. No, these are gone forever. It's as if it never happened. This is something that is not very common for most cases in the criminal court system. You and I don't normally get charges expunged without an extreme example of malpractice or malfeasance on the part of the courts, and it's a very difficult thing to get in general. But Mr. Smollett has received an expungement, and all it cost him was $10,000. And that's it. He paid $10,000. He gets to walk away. He's free and clear. Now, the thing that gets me about this with Jussie Smollett is he had 16 charges against him. The police and the police chief were not notified. How do I know this? How can I say this? Because it's in the news report. Okay? It was said, here it is, right here. Oh, there it is. Sorry. Police Chief Eddie Johnson was not briefed on the decision. Okay? This is the Chicago Sun-Times talking about this directly. He was not told. They didn't involve him in this. So the same person who was very, very vocal publicly saying that Jussie Smollett needs to be charged for the 16 charges, that this was an outrage to the people of Chicago, that this was the cost and time and manpower and the disservice this did to people who are gay, to blacks, that this was an outrage, that he had instigated this incident. That's all gone. And they didn't tell the police chief because he would have said, no, we should prosecute this. In fact, as I was doing research on this, and as the news is coming out, it was found out that State Attorney Kim Foxx had wanted to push this over to the federal courts. But instead of being able to give it to federal investigators for the nature of the crime and the hoax that went on, no, that's not going to happen, because instead, and she was recused from this, she was not allowed to, State Attorney Kim Foxx was not allowed to give this to the feds or to be involved in the case. She was taken out of it. They avoided having the police chief, Eddie Johnson, involved in it, and someone else high up said, hey, we're going to let him walk. We're going to give him everything. He gets to walk away with nothing on his record. He has no jail time. He doesn't get to go to court. It's all gone. It took 5 minutes. Again, this is the reporting from the Chicago Sun-Times. It lasted less than 5 minutes. Here it is, right here. Lasted less than 5 minutes. If this is not prejudicial treatment under the law, a two-tiered system where a celebrity is getting celebrity justice and everyone else gets something else, I don't know what else I can explain here. It is just that clear. Guess what? If you committed a hoax, you committed 16 crimes, you were possibly going to be facing federal investigation for the nature of your crime, a hoax. a hoax of massive national level, national attention, and you commit this hoax of a hate crime, of an assault, and you're out there making these allegations against the president, against people who voters, against types of people, because of a political preference, because of a racial identity. When you start doing that, you and I would be in jail right now. We would not have got out on. We would not have gotten out on bail. We would not have been able to have that bail given away, because that's what happened. The deal was Jussie Smollett gave $10,000. The $10,000 for his bond, he gets to give that away, and then he gets to walk scot-free. You don't get that you're not going to get that. I don't get that. No one is going to get that kind of treatment, except maybe Hillary Clinton, quite honestly. That is just insane that anyone would be allowed to be able to walk away that easily. It doesn't mean he was innocent. It doesn't mean the charges weren't true. It doesn't mean that there wasn't evidence against him. It means that they didn't want to do this. Now, why? Is it because the city of Chicago didn't want to have the embarrassment of having to admit and show that this one individual, an actor who wanted to get a pay raise, decided to use their political bias against Republicans, against President Trump, against conservatives, to put that out there, those people who are against the identity and gender politics, that rather than have that on display ahead of the 2020 elections, no, what they decided to do was instead, hey, we're going to give him a free pass. Everyone in America should be upset about this. He should have gone to court. Whether he was found innocent or not is an entirely different question. If he was found innocent, fantastic. If the courts were to say, we can provide evidence that says that this is not true, fantastic. I don't know what that evidence would have been. I don't know how they could have found that, because we found, everyone looked at the videos. We had the acknowledgement by the people involved in the conspiracy, the hoax itself. You cannot say that this was something that just didn't happen, which is what has functionally happened. Chicago has functionally said, this didn't happen. It doesn't exist. And he's going around, Jussie Smollett and his lawyers are going around saying, well, we've been proven innocent. We've been vindicated. No, you haven't. You made a deal based on the fact that he is a known, now he's a known actor who makes $1 million a year at least, as I understand. He's in a special class. He's a protected individual because he's black, gay, and an entertainer on a national level. He gets a special treatment that is not something that anyone else in the city of Chicago, anyone in the state of Illinois, or anywhere else in America will receive. We should be angry. Highly, highly angry. And I guarantee you that the identity politics, gender politics crowd are going to love this, and they're going to say this is true justice, even though it is absolutely everything but that. So yes, I wanted to get into that, but quite honestly, that is like one of the least important things happening today. Truly. It's going to be the thing that gets the most attention today, because the media is looking for anything and everything they can talk about except the Mueller decision, the Mueller report, vindicating and validating the position of President Trump of 50% of the nation, in that President Trump was legally elected and that there was no Russian collusion by Republicans, by the Donald Trump, by the Trump campaign, and instead all facts that we have found so far that have come up in the public in the last 2.5 years have shown that Hillary Clinton, the Democratic National Committee, they are the ones who have done all the collusion. Nothing from the Republicans or Trump. Everything from Democrats and the Democratic Party. That is significant. And the news media, which has been touting this nonstop, and everyone's seen this already, all the news media, Fox News has come out, and many other conservative pundits have come out and highlighted over and over again. 90+% of the news media over the last 2 years has been doing nothing but hyping, fear-mongering, and misleading the public, saying that there's this treason that has happened in our nation. Treason is ongoing. That somehow we have been deceived, and that foreign governments had somehow taken over our government. They wanted to get away from that story because they were wrong. Washington Post, CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times. Go down the list of the most credible news agencies in the world, in the United States, I should say, and you'll find they were all wrong. Almost every single one of them. You know, Trump's going to be indicted. There's obvious, we've seen members of Congress. Oh, Adam Schiff, we have evidence. Swalwell, we have evidence. This is obvious. It's an absolute fact. Mueller comes out. It is not a fact. There is no evidence. It didn't happen. But they want to say that. They want to say it. They're going to tell you that it happened. They're going to tell you that they think it's true. No, it's not. No. And so the news media wants to find any story. And today they would have had several stories to go to, and they're going to be running to these stories to avoid the fact of having to deal and discuss with the reality of what happened here. And that's why you were seeing so much news on Jussie Smollett. And the timing of it is very suspect. Jussie Smollett gets scot-free right after everyone is talking about the Mueller report vindicating and validating President Trump and implicating the majority of the mainstream news media in a conspiracy against the presidency, against the American people. That's the story that really needs to be addressed. And the news media is running from it as fast as they could. And I have to believe that there may have been some influence in somebody in Chicago, in Illinois, putting pressure on to say, hey, we need to change the national story. We need to change the focus. We need something to happen here. Guess what? Jussie Smollett gets a walk. He gets to walk away free, and everyone will talk about it and be outraged, because they should be, and that changes the story so we can go to that headline rather than talking about Mueller anymore. Because I guarantee you, you're going to see the Mueller story slowly and very easily become nothing. And that's just sad. That's just sad. And there are other things that we should be talking about this morning, and I'm going to be. Obviously, I wanted to get through that because it's breaking news, and so I wanted to get through that. But there is other breaking news, and news that I think is far, far more important, in fact. By the way, folks, I am checking in the chat room to see what everyone is saying out there. Please do let me know anything that news is still ongoing as we're talking right now. So if something comes up, let me know. I will be happy to jump into that as well. Always looking for comments from you and everyone else. We're going to take a quick break because I literally just ran down here to come and deal with this and start the show, even though I was trying to finish up some of the news, because I want to go into what just happened over at the Senate Judiciary Committee hearing on gun legislation. In fact, they were holding a meeting on red flag legislation and making it national. And this is big news. We're going to be talking about this. This is a big deal. We need to talk about this. But before I do that, we're going to take a quick break. Then we'll come back and I'll go right into it. It should be about 4 minutes. So we'll be right back in a moment. Oops. Oh, no. Come on. No.
Sometimes a man is wrong. She just got up. She never gonna fall. Oh, it's gonna love this time. Oh, it's one of those times. It's one of those times. Oh, it's one of those times. Oh, that woman, she don't mean a thing. She just had eyes of fire in a heart so cold. One touch, lost control. Oh, it's one of those times. Oh, it's one of those times. Oh, I can't admit sometimes a man is wrong. Oh, she took 5 sips. Oh, she was gone. Oh, it's one of those times. It's one of those times.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. That's right, we're back. This is Michael Voss, the Dragon of the Southern Tier, here with you with massive amounts of breaking news today. News that has not been reported yet. And here we go.
Newsflash. Newsflash.
That's right. This is all breaking news here today. And by the way, folks, I do want to let you know, I do appreciate the fact that you're here with us, that you're talking with us as we go through the No Sound Bites Allowed podcast here on the Exceptional Conservative Network. We've got a lot of news that we're talking with today, a lot of stories, a lot of issues that we have to go on. I've been taking crazy notes as we've been going, and literally just finished taking several notes before I came on air live with you. So please bear with me. We're trying to keep up with all of it. So as we started the show, we were talking about the breaking news on Jussie Smollett. It is actually the least important thing that is actually going on at the moment. It will be the thing that gets the most news today, not only because of the outrageous nature of what happened, that someone with 16 charges gets to walk away scot-free because he is a black gay entertainer and paid $10,000. That obviously is two-tier justice, and that is annoying, to say the least. That is it's a disregard for the justice system. It's insane, and nobody who is listening to this is going to get that same treatment, except maybe Hillary Clinton, but I'm pretty sure she's not listening to a conservative talking about what's wrong with this government at this moment. I am very sure of that. So everyone else, you pretty much won't get this. But I wanted to go on because there's something big. Now, yesterday, a lot of people may not realize that I also have written work that I do besides just a podcast. The Voss Political Commentary is one of my sites, and I wrote an op-ed yesterday, was going over and detailing the problems with the red flag legislation. Now, I wrote this specifically because the Senate Judiciary was going to be meeting today to talk about red flag legislation. For people who are not aware, I am a massive Second Amendment advocate. I believe it is one of the most crucial and important pieces of our government and of our Constitution, and allows all of the other freedoms to exist. That is my belief. You don't have to have that belief. I certainly do. Many Americans believe it too, regardless of whether you're liberal, Democrat, conservative, Republican, libertarian. It doesn't matter. We all have, many people have these beliefs. Now, the problem is, in looking over the red flag legislation, and I went through 8 of the major things, that criminals and the deranged are not affected by these laws, the red flag laws. They're not stopped. We see this over and over again, that this won't stop suicides, even though this is one of the secondary issues that are put up about red flag legislation. And that's proven by a study done by Duke and Indiana University. They're targeting the wrong people. It doesn't stop. It doesn't help anyone. And I'll go into that in more detail in a moment. That they're looking at the wrong target group. Most mass shootings are done by people in their 20s. Who do they normally target with red flag legislation? People in their late 40s. They're looking at the wrong people. That if one of the consequences directly of red flag legislation that is completely unspoken about is the fact that in every state that has child protective services, they will take your kids as well as your property, and no crime has been committed, which is insane. That this can and does lead to death. We've had people killed because of the red flag legislation, and that is a problem. That we're turning teachers and other individuals into members of law enforcement, lawyers, and or spies to be able to enact these red flag laws. People who are unqualified to be able to do what the law mandates that they must do, lest they be liable. And that's a serious issue. And the fact that this is both violating the due process clause and it is unusual punishment as per the 8th Amendment of the Constitution. So these are 8 of the main reasons I have against red flag legislation, because it doesn't work. It has never worked, and I know it doesn't work because just look at California. They had red flag legislation, and then they had the Thousand Oaks shooting. It doesn't work. It will not protect the public from a mass shooting or from crime or from suicide. By the way, the findings in the studies show that you have to take away the firearms and the rights of 20 Americans to potentially stop one person from committing suicide, and they still might, and 40% of them still commit suicide within the next 2 years just by different means. So it doesn't work. You know what? They don't bring that up in the meetings and in discussions about red flag legislation. I've spent a year researching this. I have over 200 different sources about this that are all publicly known, credible sources, news agencies, and studies that have been done on this, and you hear nothing about this. In fact, in the meeting today, Dave Kopel was the only individual that was presented in the meetings by at the Senate Judiciary to address any of the negatives here, and he was almost unheard from. Okay, so and you can go to C-SPAN and you can see the whole thing. I did. I was watching it live, so the whole thing, and I have copious amounts of notes about this. But just to give you a quick breakdown of what this means, and if you're a Second Amendment advocate, be afraid, be very afraid. Essentially, what this is going to mean is that there was essentially, of the 13 members of the Senate Judiciary, there was Senator Grassley was against the red flag legislation for many of the reasons that I highlighted. Though he didn't go into as great a detail, of course, he only had 5 minutes. But besides Senator Grassley, the members of the Senate that were on the fence about this include Senator Cruz, Senator Hawley, and Senator Ernst, based on their comments and their questions. So that's 4 people who might either are or might be against the red flag legislation moving forward and going to a vote. Those who were for it, essentially, Senator Graham, who said that he can be convinced of this and he is concerned. We had Senator Feinstein, Senator Corrin, Senator Klobuchar, Senator Coons, Senator Leahy, Senator Blumenthal, Senator Booker, and Senator Hirono, all in favor of red flag legislation for a host of reasons that are were mostly arbitrary and not providing the full story to the public. They avoided a lot of information. And I have a lot of points that I wanted to go through. So bear with me because, like I said, this is a lot of information to run through. They had over 2 hours of meetings here. It was actually 2 hours and 10 minutes, 2 hours to 11 minutes of conversation. So I'm trying to sum this up and it just finished literally about 5 minutes before we came on air, 15 minutes before I came on air. So I'm trying to go through my notes. Now, for those of you who are in Colorado, be very afraid. Bill number 1177, that's 1177, is about to pass. It is expected to pass in Colorado. This will be your red flag legislation. They will be the 16th state to have this, and that means your rights are going to be usurped, my opinion. Also in Arizona, they're looking to bring back legislation that in 2018 was defeated, but they're looking to bring it back in 2019. I've already spoken with a couple of groups. If you remember CPAC, I was talking to Marissa Hamilton there, and we were speaking about me coming out and talking about this. I'm looking forward to it. If you're in Arizona, let me know. I will come out and speak about the horror of the New York red flag legislation and the legislation across the nation and the issues that are not being told to the public. That being said, though, Sheriff Bradshaw out of Florida, who was speaking about this, by the way, one of the things that was not mentioned throughout this entire thing was in Florida, the Parkland shooting. There was a year-long report on the Parkland shooting and what should be done to prevent future mass school shootings, which was not brought up during the Senate discussion. Funny how when people are talking about how to restrict the Second Amendment, and they're talking about mass shootings, and they're talking about red flag legislation, they completely ignore the findings of a year-long study of a mass shooting in Parkland and what was the best answer, which was, according to that study and what has been enacted in Florida since, is not red flag legislation, but arming to increase the number of school resource officers, basically police in the schools, and to arm those resource officers so that they can prevent future incidents. Those are 2 of their key findings in that. Proper training, more resource officers, and to arm those officers at schools, not red flag legislation. But that being said, Sheriff Bradshaw noted that one of the things to keep in mind is the existing law that was during the Parkland shooting, that preceded the Parkland shooting, should have and could have stopped the event. In fact, the brother of the shooter, which I will not name, he doesn't deserve any kind of glorification. The brother of the shooter was stopped the day after the shooting from going on a rampage of his own. Now, again, this happened because the law already existed to stop this. What was the problem is that the law authorities did not act. It wasn't that we didn't know. It wasn't that we needed another law. No, what we needed was action on the law that already exists. In fact, Senator Cruz brought this up, that we have laws already in existence. They need to be actualized. That there are thousands of people per year that are identified as not qualifying to be able to have firearms that are still able to do so because the law does not prosecute these individuals and take away these illegal firearms that they have received. There is the problem. Not the red flag legislation, not the 123 laws that have been enacted since the Parkland shooting. That's not it. That was in 2018 alone. That's not the answer. The answer is actually using the law that exists. In fact, in New York State, this year, 2019, there was a plot to attack Islamburg, New York, by 4 kids under the age of 20 that the red flag legislation and all forms of gun control right now did not prevent and could not prevent because the kids were making bombs, which are illegal, and people have heard me talk about this before, and it was the actions within the existing laws before there was a red flag in New York that prevented that incident from going forward. It wasn't the red flag legislation or the denial of the Second Amendment, but actual police work going on. There is the problem. And several of the people who were speaking at the Senate hearing today were very carefully highlighting that if you talk to law enforcement can then take action, and that they must take action. And when they don't, that's when we have these problems. Think about it, folks. California had red flag legislation, and they still had the Thousand Oaks shooting. There is still gun violence in Connecticut, New York, and everywhere that has a red flag legislation. Chicago is the most deadly place. I mean, Senator Cory Booker's talking about how deadly it is in his neighborhood. And guess what? My neighborhood, where I live in New York, it's got, within the last 18 months, there's been shootings and deaths. It's a very high crime area with minority, black on black crime, and a lot of it. And you know what? It's not the law that's wrong. It's one, the culture, and two, the lack of enforcement. And I understand that law enforcement can sometimes have their hands tied by the law, and that's what we need to address. First and foremost, the culture that creates the environment, which often is connected to drugs. We need to address that. And if we're addressing that, we can get a far better answer. But I'm running out of time in this segment because we still have more breaking news that I really want to get to. But this is a big deal, and I really want to get into it. So in looking at this, we had Graham noting that he thought the scope and the parameters of this, that there could be 1 million gun owners in America right now could have their rights denied and their property taken, and potentially their children as well, if they were to go forward with a national red flag legislation to start with. At least 1 million Americans would be considered right now. And that's, I believe he mentioned that in the context of per year. 1 million Americans per year can lose their property, their firearms, their kids, if national red flag legislation goes forward. That's a terrifying thought. I have so many notes here, and I'm just trying to get through. Bear with me. Mr. David Kopel, who is a Democrat but yet a Second Amendment advocate, at about 11:45, noted that many of these red flag legislations in many states have been used and can be used to penalize individuals because of relationships that break up, divorces, and other malicious intent. And that the red flag legislation does not address the fact that there is, if the malicious or incorrect or erroneous red flag action takes place, there is no recourse, there is no lawsuit, there's no action that the individual who was accused can do. Nothing that they can do to protect themselves. This is a lot of information. I'm going to have to go through it, and I got to take a break. But we're going to come back and we'll go on to some other news. But this is not the last time I'm going to talk about this. You need, if you're wondering about red flag legislation, if you want to be protected and safe from gun violence, I will tell you that red flag legislation will not do it. I will tell you that the over 123 laws that were passed in 2018, on top of the hundreds, if not actually thousands of gun laws that we have in this nation, more gun control doesn't work. We have thousands of gun laws now. They are not working. We are not addressing the root problem, and that is the problem. And as long as we avoid that and look to punish law-abiding citizens and take away their rights and their freedoms, we are not going to solve this. We are going to harm more people than are going to be helped, and you're never going to see a change. So don't delude yourself. That's what the media is looking to do here. Delude people and not talk about this and enact more restrictions, and that will hurt more people. That's my point of view on this. If you disagree with me, fantastic. I really would love to hear your points of view to tell me how I'm wrong. But we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back, and we'll talk some more. Oh, why is that? All right, we'll go with this one.
Some people live for the fortune. Some people live just for the fame. Yeah. Some people live for the power. Yeah. Some people live just to play the game. Some people think that the physical things define what's within. I've been there before, but that life's a bore so full of the superficial. And some people want it all, but I don't want nothing at all. If it ain't you, baby, if I ain't got you, baby. Some people want diamond rings, some just want everything, but everything means nothing if I ain't got you.
I did it again with the sound. I apologize. The musical breaks, I hear them in my ear, so I have to tone that down. But what I was saying is that was Callie Cornwell. She's a phenomenal singer. I think she's fantastic. Her brother is Matthew Cornwell. Sometimes you see some of his videos as well and his work. Both phenomenal singers. And of course, you heard Adam Ate the Apple earlier. They do some great work. Good band. I love them all. And if you have a band that wants to be featured, please let me know. Give me the right to put on your music, and I'll be happy to do so. And if you're looking to advertise, let me know about that as well. So that little break in between. So we've been talking about a lot of breaking news here today. I mean, a ton of breaking news here today. And I appreciate the fact that you're all with me on this because I love you guys. You make it worthwhile. And that's why I love doing this, because you guys are great. And I do want to say again, it is
Newsflash. Newsflash.
I love my sound effects. And yes, that is everything today in the show is just about the breaking news that we're seeing going on throughout the day. There has been a lot of news. There's been Smollett, which is an injustice that has gone on and is probably a tactic by the major news media to change the story from Mueller to anything else that they can take advantage of so that everyone's attention is focused and angry on something else besides the fact that the news media, 90% of the mainstream media, have gone through a 2-year-long deception and misinformation campaign, which I think is the bigger story. That being said, we also had, as I was just discussing in the last break, last segment, we were talking about the red flag legislation and the hearing by the Senate Judiciary, which is looking to be about 9 for red flag legislation, 1 against and 3 that are sitting on the fence, 13 all in total. This is a scary bit of news. If you're a Second Amendment advocate, this is not good news for you. This is a problem. And they did not address almost any of the 8 issues that I wrote about just yesterday, talking about the problems with red flag legislation. They basically avoided any real question that red flag legislation brings up, which will be a problem for Americans everywhere if this passes, and it probably will be pushed through, sadly, on a bipartisan level. But that is not all the news that's going on today. As I said, there's even more breaking news that's going on today, and that would be talking about what's happening in the Senate. Again, this is Senate news today, with Resolution S-459. And this is the Green New Deal. Yeah, that's that problem. And it is a major problem. It's the Green New Deal. This is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's dream of being able to end cows having emissions. This is to end planes that Senator Hirono won't be able to get back and forth from Hawaii. I don't know. She somehow thinks there's going to be a train, a high-speed train that's going to be set up between the mainland United States and Hawaii somehow, that people won't travel by planes anywhere in the world, that we're not going to have cargo ships going in or out. There goes the import-export in the United States. No, this is the Green New Deal that will give people jobs even if they're unwilling to work and pay them to not work. This is what we're talking about. And so the Senate under McConnell, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, is going and pushing forward and saying, well, if this is what you believe, then let's have a vote. And I think he's right. And I think Nancy Pelosi should do the same thing. She won't, because this is a farce. And even Nancy Pelosi is against the Green New Deal. Actually, pretty much anyone who can do math and anyone who's actually spent time reading the bill will say this is absolutely farcical and will not go forward. Matter of fact, on March 8th, the AFL-CIO, the unions that stand to benefit from the Green New Deal, because it almost mandates the nation to have more unions and that everyone must join a union. It is there to promote unions. It's part of the deal. What's that got to do with green energy, renewable energy, or the Green New Deal? I have no idea. It's not explained. But under the bill, they would be benefiting, and the AFL-CIO, amongst other unions, said, no way, no thanks, this is bad. This will hurt millions of their members, and they do not want the Green New Deal, which should say something to Democrats about how bad this is. Unions, who basically control the money going to Democratic coffers for elections, and have been for decades, it's a known fact. That's not in dispute how much money unions put to Democrats, and they are saying a bill that will benefit unions is still not worth doing because the Green New Deal is that bad. The economist Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez should have known this as well. She does not. Okay. So getting back to what's happening in the Senate today, so Mitch McConnell has said, if this is what you believe, we will have a vote on it. We are moving it forward. It should be at 4 p.m. today. And this is a big deal. And if you want, and you can go to congress.gov, you will be able to find the bill. You can just this easily read the bill and read all of the crazy things that it says in there about cows and how it affects the economy and how it's going to help unions and the horrors that they predict, the fear-mongering that they're using to promote this bill so that 6-year-olds are growing up and thinking the world is going to end by the time I turn 18 unless you do Green New Deal, which is stupid. It is stupid. If the world's going to end in 12 years, it's done. Have a big party, the game's over. But that's not the truth. Just like when Al Gore said New York State would be underwater now, he predicted that we would already be underwater because there would be no polar ice caps and the world would be flooded. Guess what? Here we are. In the future, it hasn't. In the 70s, they promised us that the world would freeze. Guess what? It hasn't, because they don't know what they're talking about. This is an idea searching for science to prove it so that they can manipulate the economy, so that they can manipulate freedom, so that they can change America to a more socialist government. That's what the truth is. Read the bill and then tell me I'm wrong. Read the bill. Okay, it's S59 in the Senate. They're voting on it today so that we can see where everyone stands. If you believe in the Green New Deal, fantastic. This is the bill. They should vote for it. If they don't believe in it, well, then they should vote against it. And we should know why they're voting for or against this bill. Because it is devastating. It is horrible. And it will not, even if we were to do everything in the Green New Deal, it will not save the planet. The United States is not the only place on the earth. It is not the only place with greenhouse gas emissions. You forget about China. You forget about India. You forgot about 2/3 of Africa. Guess what? Each and every one of those pretty much equals the amount of greenhouse gas that the United States makes. And each of those don't care what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the Democratic Socialists, or the far left of the United States thinks. They're not stopping. And that is a big deal. That makes it useless. It only hurts us. It does not help. When you think about it from the true global impact, it is not enough. And it's not like the United States hasn't been making the planet cleaner. In fact, the United States leads the world since 2014 in reducing the amount of greenhouse gases in the world. We lead it. We are 6 times ahead of the next closest country, which is England, and we are further ahead than all of Europe combined, if I remember the facts correctly. Please double check that. I may not be correct. But as I recall, and I don't have the data in front of me again, this was breaking news day, the Green New Deal, America leads the rest of the world. That is a fact. Our next closest person is England, and I believe they are 6 times less than what we have been able to do. And I believe all of Europe combined, excluding England, is less than the amount of reduction that has happened here in America. and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the Green New Deal, Democratic Socialists, do not want to use nuclear energy, which would actually achieve a lot of the goals that they say they want. So therefore, it's not about making the environment cleaner. This is about controlling the way people get to do business, have freedom, travel, and live their lives. This is about punishing you because you're an American. And apparently, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez thinks being an American with American rights and freedoms guaranteed by the Constitution is a bad deal. That is my impression. I could be wrong. I can only go by what I can see and what I can read. And that's what I get from reading the Green New Deal. So at 4 o'clock today, it will be quite interesting to see exactly how the Senate votes. We know that of the members of the Senate right now, 5 of the leading 23 candidates for the Democratic nomination for the 2020 race happen to be sponsors of this bill. We know that it's Senator Hirono, who isn't running for president, but she is in Hawaii. This would devastate Hawaii. We know that Klobuchar, Booker, we know that Warren, Gillibrand, Sanders, Merkel, Harris, Kamala Harris, have all agreed to this. Actually, that's 6 of them, isn't it? Yeah, Sanders, that's right. I forgot to include Sanders. So we know they all support this. They support a bill that the unions that they get their money from for their campaigns don't support. A bill that individuals like, really, think about this, the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, who is by no means anywhere close to conservative by anyone's definition in the universe, thinks this is a joke and a stupid idea. Even Charles Schumer wants to avoid putting this on a vote. I don't believe he has any belief. I mean, he's going to support it. He's the Senate Minority Leader for the Democratic Party. So he has to run around saying, it's a great idea, no, let's do this. But I don't think he thinks so. But we'll see at 4 o'clock. But with that, this is the end of the show. If you have not had the chance, please go to some of our other wonderful videos. You'll be able to see that we have something else you may like here. You may want to go and check and see our latest video. Don't forget to subscribe and most of all, make comments. But that's the end of my show today. I thank you. I look forward to seeing you at Thursday at 1 o'clock or Saturday from 12 noon until 2 p.m. This is Michael Voss with the Exceptional Conservative Network on the No Sound Bites Allowed podcast. I want you all to have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.